I was going to tell you is that Pizzeria Uno in Framingham blocks your site on their free Wi-Fi access.
No pizza for me.
Well, I found it's the first time in Framingham I've been to any free Wi-Fi where Jihad Watch can't come up, and the specific
boycott hate pizza.
And the specific reason given, it violates their terms of use as a hate site.
Yeah, well, that's actually unfortunately common, but this is just another part of this whole thing.
Okay. Second thing, for those who may or may not know, the hostage standoff in Alabama came to an end. Mr. Dykes was killed. The child is free and alive. The reason I mention it is that Mr. Dees of the Southern Poverty Law Center was interviewed and made a note that he had no record of Dykes, who had, of course, killed a dog for crossing his property, threatened his neighbors with handguns, and was generally a complete anti-government radical. Mr. Dees had no knowledge of him, but of course he knows about you. The third thing I wanted to make a comment about...
I haven't even killed a dog.
Oh yeah, no, he beat a dog to death with a lead pipe because it crossed his property. But the First Amendment issue is one of particular concern to me, considering it's what I do for a living. And I think one of the things that needs to be understood when we talk about the First Amendment is that there are very seductive arguments that are used to throttle the First Amendment. And what many people, especially people here who might be interested in defending against this, is that you'll hear a lot of people say things like, it's unreasonable to allow people to say things that would put our troops in danger. That is probably one of the most common responses I get from either moderate or leftist people. And it's really not a trivial exercise to try to explain to people who are thinking of the safety of our troops why the sacrifice of those troops is actually requiring us to defend the First Amendment. I think that's an issue that needs to be addressed in language that people might be able to understand.
That's very important. That's very important.
And that argument is really seductive because it's hard to go to somebody who cares about our troops, cares about our country, doesn't want bloodshed, to try to explain to them that, necessarily the First Amendment needs to be upheld. And they'll often come back with, well, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. And the hard part about that argument is, of course, the fire in a crowded theater argument is one that says you can't say something that will place other people in imminent danger of physical harm. The, burning the Quran or whatever isn't that the speaker is going to cause harm to anybody. It's that the audience is going to cause harm, and that's a very different. The whole
that's a key distinction that's been lost.
I'm sorry.
It's a key distinction that's been lost.
And I think somehow we need to articulate ways to get that message across.
I find that I have to explain over and over again to people that, if you come up to me and you say, well, I've heard you tonight and I think that you're the worst racist I ever saw, my response is up to me. It's not up to you. I can hit you. That's up to me. It's not your fault if I hit you. Or I could bust out crying. Or I could say, well, I'm not actually a racist for these reasons. Or I could run away, or I could do any number of things, but my response is my responsibility, not yours. And this is being lost. You're absolutely right, and it's very important to try to recover it.
The last point I was going to suggest for those of us who live in Framingham or native or whatever, who might have a subscription to the Boston Globe, you might want to cancel that and pick up a subscription to the Worcester Telegram and let both papers know why.
Let me explain that. The Boston Globe ran, I didn't know because I only saw it online, but I heard later it was a front page story about how I was dropped by the Diocese of Worcester. And it was an extraordinarily slanted story, as you might expect, and I wrote a lengthy response to it on Jihad Watch that you may be interested in. But in any case, the Worcester Telegram, by contrast, ran an unsigned editorial a few days ago actually defending me. I was shocked. Defended in the mainstream media. The sky is falling. But anyway,
They're owned by the same people.
Well then, but if you let them know. Okay, well I didn't know that, but I think it is a good idea to register your approval of one and disapproval of the other, and to go to the pizza joint and say, I'm not going to get any more pizza here until you put the Jihad Watch back. And other sites like it, I'm sure, that are blocked. Here again, I'm making a lot of personal references tonight, but this is not about me. This is about all of us.